I spent almost a year living Penny's nightmare. Pam seems to be one of the Stardew Valley NPCs with a lot of cursed mods, so I decided to make a challenge playthrough using some of these mods, the most noticeable of which is Penny's Nightmare, which transforms the whole town into Pam except for Penny. I also used a mod that gives Pam new dialogue, which tackles her alcohol addiction, her complicated life, and her strained relationship with Penny, so just a quick warning that you will see some dialogue about those. The other mods I used are listed down on the description. On this playthrough, my goals were to marry Pam and complete Joja route within 100 days by only selling items that Pam loves. Without further ado, let us see what happened on this playthrough. I picked a standard farm called PaMyra Farm and named my character PaMyra, and my nightmare began. After leaving my job, I went to Pelican Town and was greeted by Robin and Mayor Lewis. I planted my 15 parsnip seeds, which is thankfully one of Pam's loved items. I didn't know this before starting this challenge, to be honest. I always just gave Pam some beer. I used animation cancelling throughout this playthrough, since frankly, I cannot play the game without it anymore. I went to gather wood and forage, then made one chest to store my items. Afterwards, I went to Pierre to use all my remaining money to buy 25 parsnip seeds. I got distracted a bit because Abigail just looks so cursed. Since I was going to marry Pam, I started courting them early. I have learned my lesson from my previous challenge run. I gave her a dandelion right after meeting her for the first time. I stocked up on forageables and spring onions to use as food supply before heading back to the farm to plant my parsnip seeds. I continued to chop down trees until I was out of energy and food. Then I went to bed early, leveling up my foraging skill to level 1. The next day, I watered my parsnips and continued to chop down trees. I went around foraging, then gave a dandelion to a busy Pam. My plan was to craft some bee houses and kegs early so I can sell mead, pale ale, or beer, so I planted oak and maple trees by the best top route. I continued to chop down trees to level up my foraging since I wanted to unlock the recipe for tappers as soon as possible. I gained foraging level 2 that day. Spring 3, it was raining and a crow ate one of my crops. I decided to plant the mixed seeds thinking I can always eat the crops as food supply if it won't turn out to be a parsnip. I said hi to Pam, then looked at the bulletin board since I could still earn money from quests. I accepted a quest from Sam asking me for a seaweed. I grabbed spring onions before heading to the beach to get a fishing rod from Willie and successfully caught a sandfish and a seaweed. I then headed to Sam's house and gave him the seaweed, earning 60 gold. After that, I started to clear a space in my farm to make a maple tree farm for maple syrup. I needed it for bee house, which is going to give me honey that I can turn into mead to sell. I also planted oak trees on the road. I spent the rest of the day gathering wood. The next day, another crow took one of my crops. I watered the remaining and continued to deforest Pelican Town. I then bought 3 more parsnip seeds from my quest earnings and planted all of it before going to bed early, leveling up my foraging to 3, which gave me the recipe for tapper. Day 5, my parsnips were ready for harvest. I went to Pierre to sell all my harvest and got 63 new parsnip seeds to plant. Luckily, it was raining, so I did not spend too much energy even if I needed to expand my farming area. The mines were opened, so I went there and got my rusty sword from Marlin and started my adventure. There, I was surprised to see a slime that looks like Pam. The mods that I used turns out to be more cursed than I was prepared for. I reached level 10 and got leather boots, then went home with a good amount of copper and coal. I got my farming skill up to level 1, which meant I can craft scarecrows and basic fertilizers. The next morning, Clint gave me blueprint for a furnace. I immediately crafted and placed a scarecrow since I was getting tired of the crows. I also crafted a furnace and started smelting some copper ores for 3 tappers. I watered my new batch of crops, which took more than half my energy. Then, I went to gather spring onions before returning to the mines where I reached level 20 and got a steel small sword. I put a furnace beside the mine elevator so I can smelt ores while mining, and I was able to reach level 25 before heading to bed. Day 7, I got 1 parsnip harvest from my mixed seeds. I remembered to check my journal and got 200 gold from quests. I finished watering my crops by 8:40 AM and I made another chest for items gathered in the mines. Then I crafted a tapper and put it on a maple tree by the bus stop before heading to town where I unlocked the community center cutscene. I can't wait to turn this into a Joja warehouse. I luckily got a quest from Jody asking for 1 parsnip, so I gave her the parsnip I just harvested and earned 105 gold. I was able to buy 15 parsnip seeds from all the gold I got from quests. I went back to my farm to plant it all, then placed 1 more scarecrow since my farmland was getting bigger. I don't know why, but I checked the traveling cart and saw red cabbage seeds. I needed this desperately for my hardcore challenge before, and the game gives it to me now. Anyway, I gave Pam a daffodil and she said, people talk about wanting a better life, but they never want to do what it takes, you know? Pam, aren't you one of those people though? I spent the rest of the day down the mines where I reached level 30. I also put a chest there for easier inventory management. I made 3 more tappers before going to bed. Day 8, I harvested 2 more parsnips. After watering my crops, I put tappers on 1 maple tree and 2 oak trees. I sold my 2 parsnips and bought 4 more parsnip seeds. I was planting as much parsnips as I could, mostly to gain farming experience, not really for profit. I was hoping to get bulk of my profit from artisan goods once I have kegs, which will get unlocked at farming level 8. I then gave a daffodil to Pam, who is complaining about their hangover. Is that why you are not working today, Pam? What happened to wanting a better life? After that, I went to the mines and reached level 35 before I had to go home. I tried to clear up my farm with the little energy I had left before heading to bed. Day 9, my parsnips and some potatoes were ready for harvest. I watered the tilled land in preparation for more crops while waiting for Pier to open. Once I was at Pierre's, I sold most of my harvest and used all my money to buy another 120 parsnip seeds. I went back home and made sure to plant and water everything before heading to Cindersap Forest to gather food supply. I spent the rest of the day in the mines. I got my farming level to 3, which gave me the recipe for a bee house. Day 10, Marnie came by to give me a cat. I named it after my sister's cat in real life, Kirigan. My daily tasks now include watering my crops and gathering spring onions or forageables for food supply. I went down the mines to gather copper and I reached level 40 where I found a slingshot. I continued and made it all the way to level 45 before I had to head home. Next day, I accepted Robin's quest for her lost favorite axe. Then harvested 15 parsnips, which I sold to Pierre. Afterwards, I went to give Pam a daffodil and listened to her complain about bugs in her drink. I then went to Cindersap Forest to collect food and unlocked a very troubling cutscene with Jazz and Vincent. After that, I went to the mines. I reached level 50 and got thunder boots, so I threw away my old shoes and wore my new ones. I continued mining on the lower levels for copper. Day 12, I stared at my TV and realized that the weather forecaster also turned into Pam. I then harvested 4 parsnips and proceeded to sell it all to Pierre. I once again spent the day down the mines for more ores. Spring 13, I harvested a lot of parsnips. I sold it all except for 10 pieces, which I wanted to use as gifts for Pam. I wanted to avoid giving her alcoholic beverages as much as possible. I wanted this farm to look a little nicer than my other challenge farms, so I started to put some wood and cobblestone paths on my maple and oak tree farm before heading to the festival where I saw all the NPCs Pam version. Who do you think has the best Pam version out of everyone? Or who do you think has the most cursed? Let me know in the comment section. Personally, I find Abigail very disturbing, along with the 2 kids. Some of them look normal though, or maybe I have been staring at these portraits for too long. By the way, if you are enjoying this video so far, consider subscribing for more Stardew Valley and farming games content. Continuing the playthrough, the egg hunt started, and for some reason, I struggled and only got 8 eggs. After around 500 hours of playing Stardew, I still lose to Abigail? I went home disappointed and just cleared my farm a bit more before sleeping. I reached farming level 4 and earned around 4,000 from parsnips. The next day, I learned to cook coleslaw from a Pam chef. I prepared my land by expanding the farming area and watering it before going to Pierre to buy 108 more parsnips. I also took this opportunity to shift my farmland downward so that I will have more space between it and my tree farm. I planted all the parsnips and put some basic fertilizer, hoping to get a bit more money since my profit was slow. I already had a decent amount of copper bars by this time, so I crafted 3 tappers and placed it on nearby maple trees. I went to the mines and reached level 55. Day 15, I got 500 gold from the mail from Dad, which is really sweet. I was able to harvest 2 random parsnips before I grabbed robin sacks. It was the start of salmon berry season, so I also started gathering some for food. Then I gave Robin her axe, earning 250 gold. Afterwards, I made it all the way to level 60 down the mines and got a crystal dagger. I gathered 2 oak crescents and put more tappers on 1 maple and 1 oak tree. Pam forecasted that it was going to rain on spring 17, so I left my watering can with Clint to upgrade it to bronze. I went around and got a maple syrup and a couple more salmon berries before I headed to the mines. I made it all the way to level 65, then I started smelting iron ores. Spring 17, it rained as expected, so I spent the day down the mines collecting copper ores. There, I got an ancient seed, but I had no use for it on this playthrough since Pam does not love wine. She loves all alcoholic beverages except for wine. I also got a wood club from a bunch of crates and a small magnet ring which I immediately equipped. I crafted 1 topper and placed it on a maple tree before bed. The next day, the next batch of parsnips were ready. I harvested it all, which increased my farming to level 5. I started heading to Pam because I wanted to give her a parsnip, one of her loved items, but her house was still closed and I'm a person who can't stand still for even 5 minutes, so I went around to gather salmon berries and dug around trash a bit. At 9 a.m., I sold all my parsnip to Pierre and bought 162 new seeds. I totally forgot to leave some parsnip for Pam because of all my walking, so I had no choice but to give her a dandelion instead. Not knowing it was her birthday, well, at least she does not hate that item. After that, I collected my copper watering can from Clint. This made watering easier and consumed less energy, so I was able to expand my farming area and plant my 162 parsnip seeds, making sure crows won't eat my crops. I put another tapper on a maple tree and harvested 1 maple syrup. I reached level 5 farming and chose tiller profession, of course, for extra parsnip income. Foraging also increased to level 4, giving me the recipe for charcoal kiln. Day 19, I headed to Clint to get a pickaxe upgrade, but he is still closed for another 40 minutes. Luckily, I can wait and be patient. Just kidding, I decided to stroll around town, not really doing anything productive, before going back to leave my pickaxe for an upgrade. Since I didn't have my pickaxe, I spent the day chopping down trees, remembering to plant oak seeds on my tree farm. I randomly saw a completed quest which gave me 100 gold. I also crafted a bee house to start getting some honey. Day 20, I started my day by continuing to gather wood. Crowd control is enabled during my live streams, and someone summoned a bat and a fly while I did not have my sword. Fortunately, the mobs didn't do much damage, and I eventually got my weapon to kill them. After that, I decided to expand my tree farm and plant more oak and maple seeds beside the greenhouse. I visited Pam, who was hard at work at Joja, and gave her a daffodil for inspiration. Wait, what? I thought she was working. I've been scammed. I just continued chopping down trees until nighttime and planted more seeds before bed. It was already day 21 when I realized the fortune teller is also Pam. After finding my fate for today, I proceeded with my daily tasks. I accepted the quest to slay 6 frost jellies. Then I gave Pam another daffodil, only for her to complain that my parsnips tasted like crap. I claimed my copper pickaxe from Clint and proceeded to the mines to gather copper ores. Spring 22, my parsnips are ready for harvest again. I planted more oak seeds before going to Pierre to sell my crops and buy another 162 pieces of parsnip seeds. After that, I left my axe to Clint to upgrade to a copper axe. I gathered 3 oak crescents on my way way back home, where I planted the parsnips and put some basic fertilizers in it. I gave a daffodil to Pam, who barely remembers me, then proceeded to the mines. I went to the frozen levels to get iron ore and to slay 6 frozen slimes for my quest. Luckily, there was a lot of frozen Pam slimes on level 63, and I completed the quest easily. I went to Lewis and earned 510 gold from the quest. Back at the farm, I placed more pathways on my extended tree farm. I also placed some wood path around my crops and cleaned up a bit. I leveled up my farming skill to level 6, which gave me the recipe for a quality sprinkler. The next morning, Dad sent me a letter saying he is proud of what I'm doing and sent me 500 gold, snapping me back to reality and making me remember that Stardew is a fictional game. Pam is also starting to warm up to me and she gave me the recipe for a cheese collie. I harvested 1 wild honey and 3 maple syrups before going down the mines again to gather more copper ore and fiber. I then crafted more tappers and put 1 on a maple tree and stored the rest for later. I got level 5 mining that day and chose the miner profession since I needed lots of ores. Day 24, I opted to craft a charcoal kiln since I am always running out of coal, and I had a decent amount of wood. Then, I went to the flower dance and I tried to test my luck and asked Pam to be my dance partner. Unfortunately, I got rejected pretty badly, so I reflected about my actions at a corner while all the Pams, NPCs, danced with each other. Day 25, I spent some time in the mines and got into a fight with the Pam slime. I had to retreat since my health was low, but the crowd had other plans, hurting me by 25% more and causing me to pass out. I got billed 1000 gold by Dr. Harvey. The crowd tried to make me pass out again, but thankfully, eating a wild horseradish prevented it. However, the crowd still didn't let up and summoned some bats for me. Thankfully, I was able to run away from them all the way to the mines to eat more food. I safely made it home and even had some spare time to continue clearing my farm before bed. Spring 26, my parsnips were again ready for harvest. I went to Pierre to sell all of it and bought another 162 for the next batch as usual. Demetrius came by and I turned my cave into a mushroom farm. I planted my parsnips, claimed my copper axe from Clint, and spent the rest of the day collecting coal and iron ore down the mines. I reached level 70 successfully where I got a master slingshot. Afterwards, I went home and started watering my parsnips, and that's when I realized my grave mistake. It was already spring 26. I wouldn't be able to harvest this anymore. What was I thinking? I heavily debated restarting since it was already 11:30 p.m. But I didn't want the 3,240 gold I spent for the seeds to go to waste, especially since I will no longer have any income until I could craft kegs. And so, I restarted with a heavy heart. This time, I just sold my parsnips and had 9,214 gold in total. Instead of aiming to go to level 70 in the mines, I decided to just stay in the lower levels to gather ores. I made another furnace before calling it a day, getting my farming skill to level 7. This was unfortunate since I won't get kegs or any income until I get farming level 8. Day 27, my 2 brain cells stopped working and I just watched the TV and went straight back to bed. The next day, I harvested a wild honey and my mushrooms. I crafted and placed toppers on 3 oak trees that were already fully grown before I went to town. I accepted a bulletin board quest from Elliot requesting an iron bar. I then claimed my copper axe from Clint and spent the day chopping down trees. After that, I went to the saloon to do the quest. There, I got disoriented and had to talk to Elliot first to make sure it was him. Once confirmed, I gave him the iron bar and got 360 gold. I made another chest for the artisan goods that I needed to further process before ending my day. I leveled up my foraging to 5 and I chose to be a forester for 25% more wood. First day of summer, I noticed that my house trailer changed. It now has some laundry hanged outside, which looks like Pam's clothes. This mod is awesome. Also, by this time, my daily tasks include adding toppers to fully grown trees and gathering the honey, oak resins, and maple syrups that were ready. I also collected mushrooms and forageables regularly for food supply. I prepared my land for new crops and purchased 54 wheat seeds and 108 hop starters. I placed hops on the outer edges and wheat on the middle rows. Afterwards, I went to the mines to get some iron ore and coal. I made it to level 70 and got a master slingshot. I went back to my farm and crafted one more charcoal kiln since I was running out out of coal very fast. I turned wood into coal and smelted some refined quartz while I watered the crops. Since I had energy and time to spare, I cleared some large stumps before bed. I reached level 75 down the mines while gathering copper ores and iron ores. I continued to gather ores when someone decided to be nice and gave me a super meal from crowd control. After that, I remembered that I was courting Pam, so I gave her a daffodil and found out she used to live in the desert. I spent the rest of the day gathering wood and expanding my oak tree farm. Summer 3, I got a letter from Lewis asking me to bring him his purple shorts. I spent a lot of time down the mines gathering ores. I also gave Pam another daffodil and she said, "People come in all the time and try to say their life is the worst." I laugh. They don't know what it's really like. They haven't been crushed yet. Pam, don't give up. I believe in you. I made another charcoal kiln and planted more oak trees before sleeping. The next day, since the spa is already open, I decided to use it to relax and replenish the energy that I consumed from doing my dailies. I panicked when the crowd summoned a frostbat and a fly since I couldn't use a weapon there. But I realized the spa also heals my health, so I just chilled there with the monsters until I was at full health. I made it to level 80 down the mines and got a firewalker boots. Then I had another conversation with Pam. "I'll tell you this, kid. Life isn't going to work out the way you expected." "Well, that's what makes life interesting, Pam. Life is full of twists and turns you never see coming. Like me, marrying you. Just you wait." After that, I got too focused placing down more paths around my new oak tree farm that I didn't notice the time and passed out. Day 33, I was billed 255 gold for passing out. I harvested my wheat, but unfortunately, my farming skill remained at level 7. So I decided to buy 54 more wheat seeds to gain more farming experience. Afterwards, I started a tree farm at the train station, utilizing the spot to regain my energy. I used my remaining time gathering gold ores for quality sprinklers. Summer 6, I added 2 more bee houses. Then I said hi to Pam. I thought she was finally getting her life together, but she changed her mind at the last second. I continued to gather copper ore, coal, and iron ore down the mines. Day 35, I spent the day gathering wood and expanded my oak tree farm. I forgot to sleep again and passed out right outside my house. So the next day, I got billed 175 gold by Morris. I only had 1,500 left after everything, and the crowd played with my heart by removing 1,000 more coins from me, but eventually returning it anyway. I spent the day gathering gold and iron ores. Day 37, I harvested wheat again, but my farming sadly remained at level 7. I suddenly remembered that I stashed some parsley before, so I gave one to Pam. This bumped up my friendship with her to 4 hearts. I also reached foraging level 6 from the foresting Pelican Town. Summer 10, I was reminded about the Luau Festival. I didn't want to attend, but Twitch chat encouraged me, so I thought of a brilliant idea which we will get into later. I gave Pam another parsnip and discovered that, as much as she complains, she enjoys driving the bus, which is good to hear. Now I'm more motivated to repair the bus for her. I then went to the mines to get more copper ores for tappers. I realized I was smelting too slow compared to how much bars I needed, so I made 2 more furnaces. It was the day of the Luau Festival. I know that I didn't have enough good produce to put in the soup, so, as I planned, I crafted a staircase and used it as pants. The glitch gave me the trimmed lucky purple shorts. I decided to talk to the NPCs to admire their new looks again, and I'm not gonna lie, I thought that the wizard's portrait was not modified. I knew right then that I needed to finish this challenge soon for my peace of mind. It was also amusing that even the displays have Pam's face on it. I put the lucky purple shorts into the soup and watched the chaos as the governor saw said shorts in a soup that he actually liked. Up to now, I still wonder why Lewis told everyone that it was his private belongings when he could have just kept quiet. Anyway, not knowing what else to do with the shorts, I decided to wear it. I threw away my other shorts to ensure I don't change my mind. Day 40, the hops were finally ready for harvest. After harvesting, I stared at my skill level in disbelief. I was still stuck at level 7. It's okay though, since hops can be harvested every day. Okay, listen, my brain was not working properly all throughout this playthrough. I just realized this day that I could already craft quality sprinklers since I reached farming level 6 way back day 22 and started gathering gold on day 33. Anyway, I crafted a bunch and placed them in between hubs. I needed 6 more sprinklers for everything, so I went to the mines to get more gold and iron ore. I reached level 5 combat and chose fighter profession. Harvesting hubs became a part of my daily tasks, which finally got my farming to level 8. I realized I had too many maple syrups already and don't really have a lot of coal to craft bee houses, so I transferred some tappers from maple trees to oak trees. After that, I added 4 more quality sprinklers before talking to Pam. Dream big, fall hard, dream small, stand tall. That's the motto I should have followed. Instead, I went with get tossed, get lost. Oof. I continued gathering copper ore and gold ore and was able to place the last 2 sprinklers I needed to cover all my crops before bed. As expected, I got the recipe for keg for reaching level 8 farming. The next day, I got a quest from Pam requesting for a pale ale. I was able to craft 16 kegs in total from all the resources that I saved up. To be honest, I thought I could craft more, but it was a good start. I also had some more oak resin ready for harvest this day. I placed the kegs and put honey and hops inside. Then I crafted 4 more furnace and 3 more kegs. I also chopped down more trees since I needed more wood. After all of that, the honey I placed earlier already turned to mead, so I replaced it with hops. I decided to plant pine trees on my farm in case I needed more wood and collected wood until late at night. I was able to harvest 2 more mead and craft 1 more bee house before calling it a day. And for the first time since summer started, I finally earned some money again. I spent the next few days harvesting hops, making pale ale, and gathering more resources to add more kegs. Since I already had a steady income flow, I turned my focus on courting Pam. On summer 15, we finally became friends and she wanted to catch up. She told me she had the best story and... What? Pam? As if they sensed my heartbreak, the crowd gave me a pizza and an iron bar using crowd control. They were acting so nice and it was sus. I saw some pale ale ready, but I was annoyed since not all hubs have completed processing, so I just slept, getting another gold bar from the crowd. Very sus. Summer 16, I got 21 pale ale and 1 random beer. 2 of the kegs were not yet finished processing, but I needed cash, so I just let it be. I replaced everything with hops. Then, I continued with my dailies when someone gave me a cookie. The trees on my farm are becoming fully grown and I made sure I put tappers on them to get more oak resins. I immediately crafted and added kegs to my pale ale farm once I had all the materials needed for it. I went to Pierre to sell my pale ale and beer, bumping my funds to 10,000, and I decided to get a much needed backpack upgrade. I saw Pam inside the store, so I gave her a parsnip. Only... it was not Pam, it was Jody. They look so much alike. Why did I even think Pam goes to aerobics? Since I didn't have any more parsnip, I settled with giving Pam a sweet pea that day. Luckily, she was okay with it. I spent the next day deforesting Pelican Town more. Harvesting pale ale and putting more hops became a part of my daily task too. I reached level 7 foraging, which gave me the recipe for 3 fertilizers. I earned 8,100 gold from pale ale that day. Day 46, I crafted and put 3 fertilizers on my oak trees. It's a good thing I was hoarding some fiber even when I didn't know where I could use it in this playthrough. It's always a good thing to hoard things in Stardew Valley. I also planted more oak trees and put some 3 fertilizers on my other trees so I will not run out of wood. I continued adding kegs and gathering ores over the next days. Day 47, I said hi to Pam, who had advice for Penny's loved gifts. Little does she know, I am all about her and not her daughter. Day 48, I sold 4 pale ale to Pierre for 1,200 gold, then headed to Joja Mart. I paid Maurice 5,000 gold so we can destroy the town's hopes and futures together. I added 1 more charcoal kiln since it is annoying to get coal. How does everyone collect coal in this game? Day 49, most of the trees on my tree farm are fully grown, but I only put tappers in oak trees now. I sold a lot of pale ale and mead, increasing my pocket money to 30,000. garden. After that, I went to Joja to get started on the upgrades. I wanted to unlock the bus so I can get cactus seeds. Pam also loves cactus. I didn't know that, but it makes sense if she grew up in the desert. However, I didn't have enough money, so I settled with the minecarts. At least I'll be able to move faster. I also left my pickaxe to Clint for a steel upgrade. For some reason, I was panicking about my money, so I wanted to make sure I had enough resources always, so I started making my farm a forest by planting more trees. Of course, I made sure tree farm is decorated before going to bed. I slept while the Joja Pams worked on the minecarts. I got 1,200 from Pale Ale that day. Summer 22, I sold 2 mead to Pierre for 400, then gave Pam a parsnip. I increased my heart level to 6 with her, but she still tried to get me with a fake story again. Like my farm, I transformed the train station into a forest and made sure the trees had fertilizers. I earned 11,400 from Pale Ale. My Pale Ale business was steadily growing as I continued to craft and place more kegs. Day 51, I learned that Pam wanted to be a pilot. Then she fell in love. Interesting. I claimed my steel pickaxe and went to mine with increased efficiency. I was mining in peace when the crowd noticed they could change my hairstyle. And of course, crowd control just had to choose this hairstyle. They also summoned Lava Bat, but some people were nice enough to give me food, a super meal and some cookies. I wanted to get a better weapon, so I went to level 90 and got an obsidian edge. Back at the farm, someone summoned more Lava Bats, which I successfully evaded. However, it made me forget the time and I still passed out. I earned 1,500 gold from Pale Ale, but lost almost all of this profit since I passed out. The crowd was not yet satisfied with my suffering, and someone tired me by 25%. Good thing I had food from the good members of the community to replenish my energy. After the chaos, I got a letter from Microsoft Technical Support asking for a remote access to my computer. None suspicious at all. I then went to Pam and gave her another parsnip. I still remember the greatest day of my life. I hold it close. Maybe I'll tell you about it one day. Pam has got to stop giving me these cliffhanger stories, I swear. I got another letter informing me I won the lottery, even if I haven't made a single entry. Well, I'll gladly take this 100 gold anyway. I asked Clean to upgrade my axe to steel and spent the rest of my time down the mines. I brought home my furnace and called it a day, earning 9,900 gold. Day 53, Pam shared a story about one of her friends. A friend of mine who lives far away became a pilot. Every so often we'll go flying. Don't hear much of them lately though, can't imagine why. Wait, is this the person you fell in love with, Pam? Do I have to worry about this person? At the end of that day, my farming skill reached level 10 and I kid you not, it was only during the time I was making a script for this day that I realized that I accidentally chose rancher profession at level 5. I had to go back to day 18 to look at myself, point and click at rancher for some unknown reason. I got another 4,200 gold from my Pale Ale that day, but imagine how much easier this would have been if I had the artisan profession. Day 54, I claimed my steel axe from Clint and got around 6,000 gold from Pale Ale. Day 55, I asked for bus repair. This will enable me to go to the desert and provide Pam a livelihood she enjoys. I went to her and thought she was on to something new, but I was wrong. That night, the Joja Pams repaired the bus and I earned 8,100. I had so many kegs by day 56 and I started extending one row weirdly without much thought. I was finally able to travel to the desert and saw Sandy and Bouncer's Pam versions. I planned to buy cactus seeds, then realized I couldn't plant it yet since I don't have a greenhouse or a garden path. Since I was already there, I thought why not attempt a run at the Skull Cavern? However, I couldn't enter since I haven't gotten the key to it yet, so I just went home with all my failed plans. I talked to Pam and found out that she still wants to be a pilot someday. I believe in you, Pam. You can do it. After that, I visited the train station and saw that it really did become a forest, which is good for me since I don't need to worry about wood anymore. I randomly got a note from Santa saying I've been naughty and I got a coal. I mean, I do need coal, so I'm not complaining, but me? Naughty? I upgraded my foraging skill to level 8 and earned 18,900 gold that day. First day of fall, I think Pam is trying to influence me into her lifestyle by giving a beer to me. If you've noticed, honest, I've only been giving her parsnips and flowers so far. With the rate that I was earning money, I realized that I don't need maple syrups anymore. So I chopped down my maple trees. Afterwards, I gave the beer back to Pam. Hopefully, she will understand my message. This time of year reminds me of a good friend of mine I lost years ago. Her name was Bev. We had some wild adventures together. What happened to Bev? Why can't she be here now? It's a long story. Pam? Is Bev your friend who became a pilot? Who is Bev? What happened to Bev? I sold the pale ale to Pierre for 2,100 and bought 200 wheat seeds since I became greedy and wanted to be extra sure that I will have enough income. I have not yet turned most of my wheat to beer, but who knows, right? As I said, I was becoming greedy. I wanted to put another batch of hops inside the kegs before sleeping, causing me to pass out a few steps away from my door. Haul 2, I was billed 1,000 for passing out, which seems okay considering I was able to make another batch of pale ale. I went back to giving Pam parsnip as a gift. My dear friend Bev got me into lots of trouble. One time, she had to wear the car and we drove through the desert with it. I found out more about Bev and got some juicy tea about Pam's old crush. Someone changed my hairstyle several times while I was doing my dailies. It went to a nice shoulder-length hair, back to bald, then to a really short cut. After that, crowd control just decided to keep me bald even after 3 more redemptions. I earned 25,800 gold. This was totally worth passing out for. Day 59, I unlocked the greenhouse. I continued my mining journey and decided to aim for the star drop. I got a Yeti tooth at level 99 and eventually reached level 100. I ate the star drop while looking like an egg. I felt an unwavering connection to the valley because I'm one of its produce. Joja Pams repaired the greenhouse as I slept through the night. So the next day, I went to the desert to forage some cactus and buy 16 cactus seeds from Sandy. I was about to put some sprinklers on my greenhouse when someone reached out to talk to me about my car's extended warranty. I don't even have a horse, please. I then placed my sprinklers, tilled the soil and planted cactus and even more wheat seeds because why not? I made sure to water all of it before going to Pam. I was disappointed that she had no tea today. The farm earned 23,510 gold from pale ale and cactus. I harvested the wheat on day 61, then I added more kegs. I accidentally placed a space in between 2 of them and just left it there to irritate people. After that, I destroyed some wheat to plant coffee beans. I wasn't sure if I can still harvest enough to get coffee to drink, but I just went with it. Pam was in such a mood this day, saying, "Is friendship really worth it if there's always an ending? Like with you, PaMyra. Will you leave me too? What if I beat you to it, huh? Just go." Feeling hurt, I went to Pierre to buy more wheat seeds before proceeding to Joja Mart to pay for the quarry bridge repair. This was when I realized that I do not need to grind for money anymore. I was just one upgrade away from completing the Joja route and my pale ale business was racking up gold. I still planted the wheat though, since I already bought it and it looks nice when fully grown. I slept at noon getting my well-deserved rest after all the money grind, earning another 6,000 from pale ale, which meant I can complete Joja route without earning anything anymore. Day 62, I was contemplating whether to still harvest my pale ale when someone changed my hairstyle into a really cute one. I was happy for 2 in-game hours before I went bald again. I went to Joja to unlock the last community upgrade, then I got a seemingly sincere apology from Pam. I only needed to marry Pam to complete my challenge, so I started sleeping the days away. Look at Pam go with that drill! I got a new haircut when Morris finally turned the community center into a Joja warehouse. I then placed the soda machine at town so everyone can support Joja even more. I gave a parsnip to Pam who said, "Here's hoping we can become proper friends, PaMyra. And maybe you can become friends with my Penny too. Then we could all be friends." Little does she know, we are going to be a family soon enough. Since we were already at 8 hearts, I bought a bouquet and officially became Pam's girlfriend. My hairstyle got changed to mohawk before the day ended. After contemplating, I continued to still sell some stuff so me and Pam can have a nice life. Fall 8, I repaired the bridge by the beach. However, the old mariner was not yet selling me the mermaid's pendant, so I just gave Pam another parsnip. Day 65, I started cleaning and organizing the farm. Someone changed my hairstyle again, and now I have the same hairstyle as Pam. I made sure to talk to Pam every day and give her gifts every chance that I got. In return, she started opening up more about her problems. Day 66, I found out that Pam knows she needs to make it up to Penny someday. They say the first step is always the hardest, but you got this, Pam. After my conversation with Pam, I went to Robin to get recipes for paths and decorations. I also bought a better fireplace. Then I realized that I needed to upgrade my house in order to get married. I headed home to get my wood and asked Robin for an upgrade. I randomly unlocked a scene with the wizard and saw that even the witch has Pam hair. Day 67, I spent the mornings decorating while waiting for Pam, who told me, "Sometimes things go clear and I make a plan for myself, and I know I can stop all this. Then it goes away. Good riddance." Day 68, I'm the one who got annoyed with the little space I made between kegs, so I rearranged everything and just stored the extra ones. I started checking the traveling merchant to try and find a truffle or a truffle oil in case I needed to make a rain totem since it was not raining lately. I also put tappers on pine trees for the rain totem. That day, Pam said, "Nothing stings more than knowing you are disappointing people. Luckily, we have this to make that sting go away. Like a shield of gold." Ha! Beer is expensive, true. 13th of fall, my house was upgraded. I was trying to get my foraging to level 9 by chopping down trees when I found a prismatic shard at the quarry, just when I don't need it. I said hello to Pam, then went home to replace my fireplace with a better one. Day 70, there was still no truffle or truffle oil from the traveling merchant. I continued increasing my foraging level. Then I went to give a gift to Pam, who was feeling positive that day. Day 71. I finally got Pam to 10 hearts. I gave her a pale ale, which was a quest that I forgot, and that bumped up my relationship with her. I decided to attend the Stardew Valley Fair. I put the trimmed lucky purple shorts in the middle of pale ales for my display while I paraded around the festival without any pants and greeted all the Pams. Lewis liked my display and gave me 750 star tokens as a reward. The rest of that day was full of scams, but I was happy from winning the fair. Day 73 up to the end. I started skipping days except for Friday and Sunday to check the traveling merchant for any truffle or truffle oil. The game kept giving me sunny and cloudy days, and I was getting nervous at this point until fall 27. The newscaster finally told me it was gonna rain. I happily bought the mermaid pendant from the old mariner and went to Pam's house. This time, I really waited very patiently outside her house and proposed. She said yes and called me weird, but our wedding was set in 3 days. I basically slept the next days away until the day of the wedding. Pam was busy looking at some food while I listened intently to the ceremony. Apparently, my wife has some superpowers, and her outfit changed into a gown when we were about to kiss. I then started a new life with a very snob partner. And that concludes this challenge. I was able to achieve all my goals in less than 100 days. Doing this challenge was fun since it forced me to play the game in a different way and find out more about Pam. Have you completed any Stardew Valley challenge? I would love to know about it in the comment section. In the meantime, check out these other Stardew Valley playthroughs.